Hello, and welcome to Cry Havoc Wargaming, dedicated to bringing you the uncommon. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Ron, and today we're going to do an after-action report of Mind the Billhooks. So let's get started. Today I'm bringing you an after-action report for a game that was played in commemoration of the Battle of Mortimer's Cross. In fact, this game was originally played, though it's airing sometime later, it was originally played on the anniversary of that battle, which was either the 2nd or 3rd of February, depending on which source you believe. I don't remember now whether we played this on the 2nd or the 3rd, but it was one of those days earlier this month. I want to make an apology before we get started. You'll notice that some of the figures aren't painted and that some of my bases, and particularly my movement trays, aren't flocked. I'm putting together a convention game and a larger scale game of Mortimer's Cross. So that's where I'm building and what I'm aiming my troops towards, but I haven't gotten there as far as I like. So I really prefer to have more finished figures on the table for these videos when I do them for you. But I also wanted to get out there and get something before you while this game was still fresh. It's already, a month or 2 months ago that this game was released in Wargames Illustrated, so I didn't want to wait much longer to finish to paint everything, and besides I keep buying more and more figures. Who doesn't, right? So that's enough talking before we get started. Let's go to the gaming table. So we finished the first turn of the game in the maneuver phase, moved up Kearns up here. Yorkist came down the road, took the center of the town, defended that field there. I took handguns into here, and those archers of this block here, of Herbert's block, fired into them, did a lot of damage. They fired at these knights, but did almost nothing. And they, as you can see, have been destroyed in the first turn by being fired a second volley by that group. The group has fired 2 volleys. In this game, you track, they only have 6 volleys they can fire. Jasper Tudor ordered his units up forward here. His archers fired and took out 3 of those men of arms. Over here, Ormond has come over the wall and is moving his way forward to show support. We go into turn 2. Turn 2, you can see where we're at right now. My Kearns have backed off behind the wall here. Butler, the Duke of Ormond, has come over that wall. But he's been held up because of how long that takes. We have melee going on in the fight here. I loosed arrows into them before they came in. Then my archers evaded back. We had a combat. The Yorkists had won that combat, even though they were down in numbers. But the Lancastrians held on. The Jasper has entered into that fight. So that's what's going on here. My skirmishers have come to hold the middle area. This block has moved forward. And the pikes have come forward as well, and we go into turn 3. So the end of turn 3, the fight in the middle has continued, slowly whittling each other away, but we're still there. We're going to be going into our 3rd round of melee. There's now a melee going over here. Butler came forward. The Duke of Ormond charged forward up to that wall, has managed to do a bit of damage to Herbert's unit, but they have made their morale roll, and so they have stayed on. And they'll be going into their 2nd round of fighting. The gunners came up into this position here where my gunners died. And these archers came forward and did some damage to the side of Owen Tudor's unit. That's our position right now as we go into turn 4. Wow, what a turn. So we just finished turn 4. Ormond managed to defeat Herbert's unit. They fell back. They were charged by the knights under Audrey. That caused a duel between Ormond and Aubrey. Aubrey was killed. The knights failed their morale roll for the death of their leader, and they broke. and they broke running through Herbert's command. One of his units, his billman, broke as well and fled the table. Wow, what a turn. Armand has then crossed the wall here, preparing to rejoin the fight here. Both of my units back here have held their own. The Lancastrians are at the edge of the table in bad shape, still holding the table. They'll probably be gone at the end of this turn, is my assumption. But it just went from being a definite Lancastrian failure to maybe not. It's hard to say now. I think the Yorkists still have a slight advantage here. But we'll see what happens this turn. We just finished turn 5. I noticed that we're making a mistake on paying out morale coins. You have a certain number of morale coins, which is how you handle the army's morale. We both started with 5, one for every company on the table, with the exception of the skirmish bands. And you'll use them every time you fail a morale roll, and we hadn't been doing that. I've only been taking them when groups actually disappear. So it's rougher than that. So we suddenly realized we're both down to 1 point. It may be worse too. We may have missed something. So maybe the battle should have already been done. My main unit here of men-at-arms just failed a morale roll and fled the table, taking Jasper Tudor with them. That's a serious issue there. Turned and faced into this bill unit. I didn't charge though. I chased off that musket unit. Another error we've been making. Anytime missile units are charged, or at least the crossbowmen, bowmen, and handguns, anytime they flee, they drop their weapons. So that unit had no arms for most of the game. That unit over there has no arms. It's out of the game anyway. 2 mistakes right there. The Bills decided, because this group's out of command, they decided to charge into Armand's unit, and they did some damage. They actually won the fight. Well, it was actually a tied fight. So things are continuing, and no doubt on this, turn 6, the game will end. Right now, the whole fight ends up on that fight alone.
I know.
Whoever fails the next morale roll will lose the game. Well, we didn't get very far into the last turn. Like I said, we were right on the wire. I did forget, I actually had 2 coins, not 1. We had made another mistake that I hadn't caught. The Armand's unit had been lowered to half last turn. When you have a melee at the end, have to do a morale roll at the end of the turn anytime you drop below half. He failed that roll and exited the board. Duke of Armand's group had been dropped to 6 last turn, so he'd fallen back. So that brings me down to 1 now. However, the archers here fired into the back of the men-at-arms of March and did a lot of damage, more than one would have expected with their armor. And they failed their morale, and they have nowhere to go. So they have fled the battlefield, and that took away their last coin, making this just barely a Lancastrian victory.
So that was an example of how the game unfolds for Mind the Billhooks. You may well have noticed how the game completely changed in the end. It looked like it was going one way, and in the last turn, suddenly things changed around. That's not unusual for this game. Not only have I noticed that, but the author of the game and his long-term playing partner, the gentleman who runs Arcane Scenery, they do videos, excellent videos by the way, on Wargames Illustrated on how to play this game. And in those videos they mention that it always changes and it completely alters from where you're expecting. Some people may not like that. The game does have a bit of randomness to it, and some people I know are driven away by that. I enjoy it. I think it makes the game more interesting. I think it increases the continued playability of the game, that it'll last longer and be interesting to play for a longer period of time. I also don't think it is unfitting for War of the Roses. One of the curious things about War of the Roses is how the war, through many of the battles, kept swinging back and forth, who was doing the best at one time to another. So I think it helps keep that feel alive, and I think it keeps the interest in the game higher. It makes it a very enjoyable game, and this is an enjoyable game. It is relatively quick to play. It is a little random in its nature, but that adds to the flavor and to some of the fun, and it is a very enjoyable game. I really recommend, if you haven't tried this game, that you go ahead and get yourself a copy and move some figures around the table and give it a try. A lot of fun. If If you have any questions, please go ahead and put those in the comments down below. Or if you have played this game and you have comments you'd like to make, either corrections of errors I may have made or just things you think may be of interest to the general populace, go ahead and put those in the comments down below as well. If you've enjoyed this video or if you have found it useful, I hope that you will hit like. And if you'd like to continue to receive videos like this one or other videos that might help you determine how to better spend your wargaming money or time in the future, I hope that you will hit subscribe. Until next time, cheers.